Have you ever heard someone say a fire started spontaneously? Or that a stock market crashed spontaneously? Or maybe you've heard the one we hear most of all, that a person had a heart attack completely out of the blue. It just happened. No warning, no reason, spontaneous. But what if that word is one of the most dangerous words in the English language? What if nothing, truly nothing, ever happens spontaneously? What if every single thing that appears sudden is actually the final moment of a long, quiet story? And what if understanding that one idea could change how you protect your body for the rest of your life? Today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast
with Garrett Williamson.
Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. My name is Garrett Williamson. I'm president of Personal Edge Fitness. Thank you so much for joining us today. Over the last several weeks, we've talked about strength, movement, nutrition, and the way your body adapts to what you ask of it. Today, we're going after a single word, a word we use every day without thinking. The word is spontaneous. And by the end of this show, I don't think you'll ever hear it the same way. The myth is simple. The myth says that big events can happen for no reason at all, that things appear out of nowhere, that some events are simply spontaneous. We've built this word into our language. Spontaneous combustion, spontaneous decision, spontaneous recovery, spontaneous collapse. But here's the truth. Spontaneous is not a cause. Spontaneous is just the name we give to a cause we did not see. A magician doesn't really make the coin disappear. You just didn't see where it went. Spontaneous is a magic word. It hides the mechanism. And when it comes to your body, that hidden mechanism is the most important thing you'll ever understand. Exhibit 1, spontaneous combustion. Let's start with the classic. Spontaneous combustion, the idea that something can simply burst into flame for no reason. But ask any fire scientist, and they'll tell you the truth. There is no such thing as a fire without a cause. So-called spontaneous combustion is actually a slow chemical process. Oily rags in a warm pile. The oil reacts with oxygen, the reaction releases heat, the heat builds up, the pile can't cool down, hotter and hotter until it reaches ignition. It looks like it happened out of nowhere, but it was building the entire time. The fire didn't start in an instant. It started hours ago, quietly, where no one was looking. Exhibit 2. Think about a stock market crash. The headlines say the market crashed suddenly, spontaneously, in a single afternoon. But no economist believes that. A crash is the visible moment of pressure that had been building for months. Debt, overvaluation, risky bets, warning signs completely ignored. The crash isn't the cause. The crash is the symptom. It's the moment the accumulated pressure finally broke through the surface. The crash was the last domino. It was not the first domino. Exhibit 3. Picture a river that floods a town. The news calls it a sudden flood, but the rain had been falling for days. The ground was already saturated. The reservoirs were already full. The soil could hold no more. The flood didn't come from nowhere. It came from every drop that fell before it. The last inch of rain gets the blame. But it was never the last inch. It was all about the inches that came first. And lastly, spontaneous sinkhole. Sinkhole opens up and swallows a driveway overnight. The neighbors are stunned. It appeared from nowhere, they say. But underground, water had been dissolving the rock for years, decades even. A hollow space grew wider and wider beneath the surface. The ground on top looked perfectly solid right up until the moment it wasn't. The collapse was sudden. The cause was not. Do you see a pattern? In every single case, the event looked spontaneous, and in every single case, it wasn't. There was always a cause. There was always a buildup. There was always a story happening quietly beneath the surface. The fire, the crash, the flood, the sinkhole, they all share one truth. The moment we can see is never the moment it began. Now let's bring that truth home. Let's bring it into your body. The body doesn't do anything spontaneously. Here is the heart of today's show. Your body never does anything spontaneously. Not one thing. Every heart attack, every stroke, every worn out joint, every slow decline that we blame on age. Every one of them is a fire that was building, a flood that was rising, a sinkhole that was hollowing out beneath the surface. We just called it spontaneous because we couldn't see the story underneath, or maybe didn't want to. So let's look underneath. The heart attack that wasn't sudden. We say someone had a sudden heart attack out of nowhere. He seemed so healthy. But the science tells a very different story. One of the largest heart studies ever conducted looked at nearly 30,000 people across 52 countries. It was called the InterHeart Study, and it found something remarkable. About 90% of the risk of a first heart attack came down to 8 factors we can measure and manage: smoking, blood pressure, diabetes, belly fat, stress, alcohol, physical activity. 90%. That is not a mystery. That is not bad luck. That is not spontaneous. That is a buildup. The heart attack was the crash. It was the moment in the event that we could see, but the pressure had been rising for years. The oily rags were piling up the whole time. The same thing is true for a stroke. A companion study called InterStroke looked at thousands of people across 32 countries, and it found that 10 controllable factors explained about 90% of stroke risk. And by the way, if you're thinking, well, what about the 10%? Most likely, things we haven't discovered yet. The single biggest one, blood pressure. Something we can measure at a pharmacy for free. A stroke feels like lightning from a clear sky, but the sky was never clear. The storm had been forming for a very long time. Those two we deal with a lot, but this one we probably see the majority of. Let's talk about a joint. This is where the word spontaneous does its quietest damage. Someone's knee starts to ache. They go to the doctor, and they hear the phrase that sounds like a life sentence. It's just wear and tear. Worst of all, it's your age. But here's what the research actually shows. Osteoarthritis was labeled a disease of aging for 100 years. And yet the real drivers are things like joint load, extra body weight, and old injuries that never healed right. Consider this. For every single pound of body weight you lose, you take roughly 4 pounds of pressure off your knee with every step you take. So a person carrying an extra 20 pounds is loading their knees with an extra 80 pounds every time their foot hits the ground, step after step, year after year. That knee didn't spontaneously wear out. It was asked to carry too much in the wrong way for too long. The calendar didn't do that. The load did. And load is something we can change. Now, this last one tends to surprise everyone. We assume that losing our memory is simply the price of getting older, that the mind fades spontaneously. But in 2024, a major international commission published in The Lancet concluded that up to 45% of dementia cases are potentially preventable by addressing 14 risk factors across a lifetime. Hearing loss you never treated, blood pressure you never managed, inactivity, isolation, blood sugar. Now, this was nearly half. That is not fate. That is a fire that was building where no one thought to look. And again, you may be saying, all right, what about the other 55%? Well, guess what? Just came out with a recent study finding out that lack of water over many years caused deterioration to the brain. We're still finding these things out. Instead of just saying, it just happened spontaneous, let's give up, let's quit researching it, there is a cause. You've seen that in what we've proved today. Here's my Personal Edge Fitness observation. Over the years, I've watched this word spontaneous steal something precious from people. It steals their agency. When you believe something happened for no reason, you believe there was nothing you could have done. And worse, you believe there's nothing you can do now. I've had clients come to me convinced their decline was just age catching up, their aching back, their weakening grip, their fading balance, all of it they thought was spontaneous, inevitable, out of their hands. And then we started asking the body different questions. We changed the load. We changed the movement. We changed the nutrition. And the body, being economical, not emotional, responded. Because the body never stopped listening. It was answering the whole time. We were just asking it the wrong things. This brings us to the very heart of everything we believe at Personal Edge Fitness. That's the lie of age. The lie of age is the idea that time passing on a calendar is what causes our decline, that the birthdays themselves break us down. But I've researched this for over 35 years, and I'll tell you what I've found. There is not one clinical study on the face of the earth that proves the passage of time causes deterioration. Not one. Because aging, the way we fear it, is not spontaneous. It is the sum of the loads we carried, the habits we repeated, the muscles we stopped using, the pressures we never released. It is the fire that built up over decades. And here's the beautiful part. If decline is built, then decline can be unbuilt. If the fire was fed, the fire can be starved. Everything traces back to four things we control: fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, and mindset. You knew I was going to say it at some point in time. And every one of those four is 100% within your control, from the cradle to the grave. So what can you do? What do you do with all this? Well, you become a detective. You stop accepting the word spontaneous as an answer. When something in your body changes, you ask why. You look for the story underneath. You get your blood pressure checked. You look at the load you're placing on your joints. You look at what you're feeding the fire and what you're not. Not with fear, with curiosity. Because every cause you find is a cause you can do something about. So here's your challenge for this week. It's a simple one. Pick one thing, just one thing about your health that you've always chalked up to just getting older. Mind you, just one. Maybe it's stiffness in the morning. Maybe it's getting winded on the stairs. Maybe it's your energy in the afternoon. And this week, instead of calling it spontaneous, ask one question, one honest question. What have I been asking my body to do or not do that could be causing this? You don't have to fix it this week. You just have to stop calling it a mystery. Because the moment you find the cause, you find the power. Now, today we discussed three things. First, that nothing in the world truly happens spontaneously. Hopefully, you'll be thinking about that word differently now. Not fires, not floods, not crashes. Second, that your body is no different. Heart attacks, strokes, worn joints, fading memory, all have causes that build over time. And that's not the only things. Balance, whatever. And third, that because these things are built, they can be influenced, changed, and often prevented through fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, and most importantly, mindset. The word spontaneous tells you that you are powerless. The truth tells you that you're in control. And understanding that nothing happens to your body by accident is just one more way we help you reach your level of wellness.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.
Did you know only 22% of 8th graders are proficient in civics? It's a statistic that affects all our futures. But Alabama's Liberty Learning Foundation is changing the headlines. We partner with schools to go beyond the textbook, teaching civics, character, and financial literacy in a way that empowers students to make a real impact in their own communities. Help Liberty Learning Foundation build the leaders Alabama needs. Join the movement today at libertylearning.org.